What's up, guys? I'm BTC. Overwatch beta is finally back, and there was a patch that made some pretty significant changes. I've already done a patch review video where I read through all the notes and I kind of gave my first impressions on all the changes. I'll include a link to that video in the description of this one if you want to go and check it out. But in this video, I want to go through all the different characters and I want to talk about how the changes have affected them. There was a lot of direct changes and also some indirect changes. Maybe with one character getting strong, it made another character weak. So I'll go through the different characters. I'll let you know what ones got stronger, what ones got weaker, and what ones basically stayed the same. So starting with Bastion, who had some of the biggest changes. He lost the barrier shield. He now can spin 360, and he has more armor. He can shift faster. Basically, Bastion plays completely different than he used to. What you used to do with Bastion is you would find a corner, back yourself into it, and then just sit there and try to mow down anybody that came in front of you. However, this made Bastion pretty easy to deal with because there was only a certain number of places he could actually set up. Higher skilled players knew where those places were going to be, and either Tracer or Genji or a Reaper could easily go in and just quickly take out the Bastion, so he was like a non-issue. Or in some cases, on some maps, you could just ignore Bastion altogether. You could use the environment or the payload to block all of the shots coming from Bastion and just ignore him. So what they did was they basically made him into a different style. I actually think of Bastion less of being like a fixed sentry turret and more of a kind of rapid fire sniper, if you will. With a sniper, what you need to do is you need to sit in one spot and you take a couple of shots, get a couple of kills, then you really need to move to a new location. Because if you just keep trying to get shots from that same location, then the enemy team is going to know where you are, and they're going to be able to react to it. So they can either counter-snipe you, or they can do some other countermeasure. They can send an assassin class to come and get you, or something like that. So if you're a sniper, if you're playing like a Hanzo or the Widowmaker in this game, you after you get a couple of kills, you move to another location. You got to switch it up. And that's kind of how you play with Bastion now. Because he can shift really quickly, and because he can spin 360, he has a lot more flexibility. You can move around a lot more. You can set up in places where you couldn't set up before. Has he gotten stronger? Kind of. See, even though he's gotten a little bit more flexible, he also has some new vulnerabilities. Roadhog can now hook him because he doesn't have a barrier. And when he gets hooked, he instantly changes from sentry to recon mode, which basically means he gets Bastion will get annihilated like right away. Other things is like McCree's ult can now hit Bastion because there's no barrier to protect him. So there are also other things like Soldier 76 who can kind of do like a peek and shoot kind of thing. Before, when I was playing Soldier 76, it was extremely difficult to deal with a Bastion because you couldn't get through their barrier. But now that Bastion doesn't have the barrier, you can just peek out of a corner, fire off a couple bullets, fire your helix, and then hide behind the corner again. Now, yes, Bastion can heal, but it gets interrupted when he takes damage. So before, where Bastion could just sit behind the barrier and heal up to full without getting interrupted, now anytime he takes damage, he's going to get interrupted. It makes that self-heal in sentry mode way less valuable than it used to be. So he does have some more weaknesses, but he does have a lot more flexibility. I don't know if he's going to be viable in a high-level competitive scene. The fact of the matter is we don't have a high-level pro scene right now. We do have weeklies with some good teams and some good players, but the problem is there's just not enough people in the beta, and there's just not enough teams to really get a good idea of all the different possibilities of team lineups. Quick reference, thought about that is, like, in Dota 2, I used to watch a lot of Dota 2, right? And there's a lot of standard characters. But because there's so many teams, some teams would play like an oddball character that nobody else would ever play. They would never think to play that character. But that team would be able to play it, and they would play it extremely well. So much so that the other team would have to, like, ban out that character. They would have to ban a character that they would never think to ban out because that one team was so good with it. And it's possible that there could be a team out there, that could be a team composition and lineup that utilizes Bastion very effectively. But unfortunately right now we just don't have enough teams, we don't have enough diversity among those teams in order to actually see if he's going to be viable. So hopefully some of the teams try him out in these weeklies during beta. I don't know though. So has Bastion gotten more powerful, weaker, or stayed the same? He's changed. That's basically it. I know this is the first character I'm going through, and it's kind of a half answer. I'm honestly not certain. I think I'm going to say he's gotten a little bit better and a lot different. A little bit better and a lot different. That's my view on Bastion. All right, so the next character is D.Va. D.Va did get some direct nerfs to her defense matrix, and also kind of an indirect nerf to the ultimate change. So ultimates were changed where you no longer gain ultimate charge through damage. This has basically weakened all the tanks. Like, all the tanks got a little bit less good because they can no longer build charge while taking damage. And that's what tanks do. They take damage. So while D.Va can get some charge from dealing damage and from the overtime thing, I think D.Va probably, and the rest of the tanks as well, they probably are going to charge their ultimates a little bit slower than they were before. So did D.Va get stronger? Did she get weaker? Is she about the same? She's probably a little bit weaker, but she's still a very, very good character. Next one is Genji. Genji pretty much just stayed the same. There's really not much change to him. Really nothing amazing like happened to Genji. The ultimate change doesn't really affect him too much. From my playing Genji, I've noticed he gets ultimate at roughly the same amount of time. So I think Genji is pretty much the same. Next up is Hanzo. Hanzo did get some slight changes, nothing spectacular. I think the biggest thing that's going to affect Hanzo, Widowmaker, and other backline characters is the change to the ultimates. So since they no longer gain charge from taking damage, but instead gain charge over time, that means characters that normally didn't take damage or took very little damage are going to see a lot of benefit from that. Because before, they would effectively get 0 charge because they're not taking damage or they were taking very little damage. Now they get a constant fixed charge, which means that their ultimates are going to be available much more often. So in that case, I think Hanzo definitely got a little bit more powerful. And nothing like amazing, like no huge swing, but he definitely got stronger. Next up is Junkrat. Junkrat, I think, got a huge benefit from the changes to the ultimate. So not only did they change like the way you get the charge, but they also made it so that not everybody has to get the same amount of charge to use their ultimate. Like, yes, everybody gets 100%, but that 100% is representative of a different number for different people. So like, while one needs 50 points, another one needs 70 points, or another one needs like 200 points, or whatever it happens to be. And it feels to me like Junkrat is getting his ultimate almost constantly. Like, all the time, Junkrat is getting his ultimate. And while the Riptire is not one of the best ultimates in the game, you can use it to get behind the enemy lines and take out one of their supports or one of their backline characters, like insta-kill. And that can be very powerful, both on offense and defense. So Junkrat, with just the ultimate changes alone, I feel Junkrat is a much better character. Also, the other thing with Junkrat is you have to keep in mind, what is the other team going to be playing? So if Bastion and Torbjorn, the changes to those two characters, make those characters appear more often, then Junkrat, who is the best counter to Bastion and Torbjorn, is necessarily gonna be a better character. So with Junkrat, you don't need line of sight in order to take out the turrets and to take out Bastion. You can lob stuff around over hills, over walls. You can bounce them off of the walls. You know, all this stuff is like an indirect way of hitting the turrets or hitting Bastion, and you never actually have to reveal your character. So you're never in line of sight of the Bastion or the Torb turret that's trying to kill you. So that makes Junkrat potentially a lot more powerful of a character, because it means that the Torb and the Bastion, if they are actually used, will be much more effective. So I think Junkrat got more powerful, and if we see Bastion and Torb a lot more often, then that just means that Junkrat will be even better. So next character is Lucio. In your face, kind of healer and support type. I don't think he really got too much impact in this patch. He already was good at taking a lot, because he had his own self-heal. He could take a lot of damage and just heal himself back up, you know, slowly over time. So I don't think the charge over time has really affected Lucio that much. I feel like he is kind of the same, but he's still an amazing support. So I don't think Lucio got more powerful or got weaker. I think he's just about the same, but he's still an amazing character. Next up is McCree, and he's kind of in the same boat with Genji. The patch really didn't change too much about him. He's not really stronger, he's not really weaker, he's basically the same. The one big change was that his ultimate can now kill Bastion, so that's pretty good. But he's basically the same as he was before. Next up is Mei. Now, the changes to the ultimate and stuff doesn't really directly affect Mei that much. However, because the game is now moving towards a more aggressive style of play, characters like Mei, who can slow down or stop the enemy aggression altogether by using her ultimate, which freezes people in place, or the wall, which can block off areas where the enemy team is trying to move in, or just her regular ability, where her regular left click, where she can slow down stuff. Basically, if the game is moving towards a more aggressive style of play, and the reason why it would move to a more aggressive style of play is because people gain ultimate charge not through taking damage, but from overtime and dealing damage. And players gain ultimate charge while they're dead. So you're no longer penalized for being aggressive and dying. Now you're actually rewarded for being aggressive. And Mei is the kind of counter to that aggression. So if you're playing against a team that's still using the old style passive play, Mei isn't going to be too great. But if you're playing against teams that are taking advantage of the new aggressive play, then Mei is definitely going to be more powerful. Next up is Mercy. Mercy did get a nerf to her ultimate. She is slightly weaker, but still an absolutely amazing character. So yeah, she got weaker, but she's still, like, crazy good. So it doesn't really matter. Next up is Pharah. Pharah kind of feels the same to me. I'm gonna put her in the same boat with McCree and Genji. Kind of feels the same. Didn't get stronger, didn't really get weaker. It's about the same. Next up is Reaper. About the same on this one too. Although, I think Reaper will benefit quite well from the new maps. So with the new maps, it's all about sustainability. When you go and capture the point, so what is it? I can't pronounce it. It's the two new maps, Nepal and the tower one. I can't pronounce that map name. Anyways, you have to go to the point and you have to hold it. So characters like Reaper and Soldier 76, who are capable of both doing a lot of damage, and they're able to keep themselves alive and hold the point longer. Like, they don't need to have a support character with them. They can heal themselves. So in that regard, on the new maps, characters like Reaper are definitely a little bit stronger. And in the more aggressive style of play, Reaper is also going to benefit. So I think Reaper did get a slight boost in power. If not directly to his character, just more in how he can be used. So I'm gonna say Reaper's a little bit better. Next up is Reinhardt. Reinhardt got nerfed in a couple of ways. He took the ult charge hit from the damage taken, and also his ultimate was made a little bit weaker. He's still a very solid tank character. He can still do the barrier, which is amazing at protecting a point or an entry access or a payload or anything like that. So he has been, shifted down a little bit. Reinhardt did get slightly weaker, but it's nothing too crazy. He's still a very solid tank, and yeah, he got weaker, but it's not crazy. Next up is Roadhog. Roadhog is about the same. Yeah, he's gonna lose a little bit of... So the deal with Roadhog is, unlike the other tanks, with Reinhardt and Winston and such, like, they relied on their shields to kind of absorb a lot of the damage, whereas Roadhog doesn't have any of that. He just takes the damage directly, and then he just heals up himself. So the change to damage taken / overtime, that doesn't really do too much to him. He did get the extra benefit of now being pretty good against Bastions. So if Bastion is in any sort of hookable range, Roadhog is now a super hard counter to Bastions that play a little bit closer to the front line. But other than that, Roadhog is still kind of, whatever. He's relatively unchanged. He's one of the worst tank classes. He probably could have used a little bit of a buff, but he's not getting it this patch. So next up is Soldier 76. They made a couple of changes to him. He is now much more accurate at every distance, even long distance. If you shoot a 4-round burst, you can pretty much guarantee that those 4 shots are going dead center of the crosshair. However, they added a huge damage drop-off at long range. I already posted a video to my channel comparing the damage of close, medium, and long range. At close and medium range, Soldier 76 can kill the training bots with 6 headshots. At long range, it took 20 headshots. So imagine if you're just hitting the body of an enemy at long range, you're going to be doing almost no damage whatsoever. And the reason why they made these 2 changes was they made him more accurate, but they didn't want you to be able to sit all the way back like where Widow does and just snipe people off. So they made it so that he has a huge damage drop-off, which means that Soldier 76 now needs to be played as a medium-range character. He doesn't do enough damage at long range, and at short range, yeah, you can deal with a Reaper or a Tracer, but he doesn't really have the tools to deal with consistent frontline combat. So he's really, really good in the medium range now, and that's pretty much it. Like, he's got to sit in that Goldilocks spawn right in the middle. If he's too close, he's going to get killed, and if he's too far away, then he's not going to do any damage. Now, one of the things that I really wish they would have changed, and they didn't, was his ultimate. Soldier 76 really wasn't affected by the change to how the ultimate charges, because he would take damage and heal himself, so he got ultimate charge that way, so now he's just getting it over time. It really doesn't matter. He still gets the ult in about the same amount of time. The problem is his ultimate is terrible, especially with the changes that they just made. So he's more accurate now, which means that you can more easily get headshots and do more damage. But what does his ult do? Yeah, it makes you auto-target, but if you're a good player, you're going to be able to hit the targets anyways, and you're going to be able to hit headshots and do more damage. But what his ult does is it makes you hit nothing but body shots. So Soldier 76 is the only character in the game where the better you are as a player, the worse his ult is. Like, you can already hit headshots. Why would you need the ult to just automatically hit body shots? Yeah, it does have some uses, but whatever. So, did Soldier 76 get stronger, weaker, stay the same? I think he got stronger because even though his ult is still whatever, being able to more accurately hit those headshots, granted, it takes player skill to hit those headshots. So, the amount of improvement he gets is dependent on the person who's playing him. So the better you are as a player, the better the character becomes. Whereas other abilities for other characters, they're static. It does X regardless of whether you're a good player or a bad player. But with Soldier 76, because he's now more accurate, better players are going to be able to take more advantage of that and hit the headshots. So yes, he is a better character, but it's kind of on a sliding scale. Also, with the more aggressive style of play, he's a little bit better, especially at the 2 new maps, because he can now plop down, do lots of damage to all of the incoming enemies, but he can also heal his team. So he became even more valuable, specifically in those 2 types of maps. Next up is Symmetra. She was one of the worst characters in the last version of beta. On my tier list, she was the bottom dumpster fire tier list, and she deserved that spot. She was completely useless on offense and mostly useless on defense. However, with the changes to how the ultimates charge, she has gotten quite a bit better. The reason being is the most important teleporter Symmetra drops is always going to be that first one. Specifically on defense, you need to get that teleporter down because there's a lot of maps where, like Hanamura, Anubis, the travel distance from your spawn to that first point is pretty huge. So the faster Symmetra gets that first teleporter up, the better it is. And with the changes to how the ultimate works, how it ultimate charges, she can get the teleporter up and running a lot faster. It still needs to be faster than it is now. They need to reduce the amount of time for her to get her ultimate charge because it's still not up fast enough. But she is definitely a better character, without a doubt, a better character than she was in the previous version of beta. Next up is Torbjorn. Just like Bastion, Torbjorn's playstyle is completely different. Before, you would set up a turret, you would have to invest a lot of time and scrap metal into getting that turret up to a maximum effectiveness. And then you'd have to do everything in your power to protect that turret, because if it got destroyed, it would be a serious setback for you. Now, the turrets build a lot faster, and they don't require scrap. So you can be a lot more mobile and a lot more flexible. If your turret gets destroyed, it doesn't matter. You just relocate, put up another turret, and boom, you're back in business. Also, his ultimate is the only way you can get the turret to level 3 now, and once you do that, the turret becomes pretty formidable. It gains a lot of power once you use your ultimate. But on top of that, your character, Torbjorn himself, becomes a serious force to be reckoned with when he uses his ult. So even if he doesn't have a turret, he can still go into Molten Core, use his ult, and be really powerful for the duration of that ult. So, Torbjorn, completely different playstyle. You can't just do the sit and camp thing. You've got to be more mobile. That actually makes him useful on offense now. And also, his armor pack is even better. So, that's definitely a plus too. So, Torbjorn, without a doubt, is a much better character now than he was. And if it comes down to it, where a team needs to pick, do I take a Bastion or do we take a Torbjorn? I feel like Torbjorn's gonna win 9 times out of 10. Next up is Tracer. Tracer kind of unchanged. Not really much going on. Just like McCree, just like Genji. Not stronger, not weaker, just kind of the same. Next up is Widowmaker. So Widowmaker, I think, is definitely stronger. How much stronger is kind of up in the air. See, the thing is, with the change to how the ultimates charge, I've said this a bunch of times, Widowmaker is going to get her ultimate a lot more often. And the information that your team gets from her ultimate, i.e. the location of everybody on the map, is invaluable, especially on certain types of maps. So, having her be able to use her ultimate, like, all the time, is just incredibly powerful. So, you know, they didn't do any super changes to the character, but the ability to get that ult a lot more often is just crazy good for the team. And again, that's because she wasn't really taking any damage before, so she wasn't gaining charge that way. But now that she gains charge over time, she can use it a lot more often. It's just crazy. So Widowmaker definitely got stronger. How much stronger is gonna kind of depend on what map you're playing and what your team comp is, basically. Next up is Winston. Because of the change with the ultimate charge mechanic, leading to a more aggressive kind of dynamic, a more aggressive play style in the game, Winston is going to be more powerful. He's going to be more valuable because he's a very good aggressive tank. He can jump right in, shield up an area, and start distracting them while your team moves in. So a very good aggressive tank. He's going to fit really well with the new play style. So he definitely got more valuable and stronger. Zarya is also much more powerful. In fact, the change in the ult charge mechanic makes it feel as if she's getting her ult almost non-stop. Like, she can ult so often now, it is crazy good. She can also shield herself and a teammate, meaning they can be much more aggressive. So again, Winston and Zarya both can be super aggressive tanks, and that's going to fit right in with the new playstyle of more aggressive lineups. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Zarya's ult gets nerfed a little bit. Like, maybe not the ability itself, but like the time it takes, the amount of charge she needs to get an ult, because right now she's getting it like a lot. She gets her charge quite often, and she can just throw that stuff out and just decimate enemy teams. So definitely stronger. A lot stronger, it feels. And the last character is Zenyatta.
I'm coming.
He definitely got stronger for two major reasons. The first one is his main competition, Mercy, got nerfed. And the second reason, and I sound like a broken record, is because of the change to the ultimate charge. Zenyatta has no health. He is super, super squishy. So he was never really going to build charge from taking damage. But now that he can sit in the back line and gain ultimate charge just over time, in addition to whatever damage and heals he can throw out, he's going to get his charge a lot more often. And here's the thing. With the aggressive style of play, his ult can actually be quite good. With Mercy, yeah, being able to res everybody is awesome, but having them not die is also pretty good. So Zenyatta definitely got stronger. Alright guys, so that is all the characters. Let's do a quick run through. Bastion totally changed, probably going to end up a little bit better, but the jury's still out on that one. D.Va, a little bit worse. Genji, about the same. Hanzo, a little bit better. Junkrat, a little bit, potentially a lot better. Lucio, about the same. McCree, about the same. Mei, a little bit, potentially a lot better. Mercy, a little bit worse. Pharah, about the same. Reaper, a little bit better. Reinhardt, a little worse. Roadhog, about the same. Soldier 76, a little bit better. Symmetra, a bunch better. Torbjorn, way better. Tracer, about the same. Widowmaker, a little bit better. Winston, a little bit better. Zarya, way better. And Zenyatta, a little bit better. So, a lot of people got improvements. Some of them just stayed the same. About 3 of them, I think it was D.Va, Mercy, and Reinhardt, got a little bit worse, but they're still very, very good characters. So, nobody got dragged down into the useless territory, and the ones that were in useless territory have definitely been elevated. So, that's pretty good. It's becoming a lot more balanced. Like, there's still going to be some characters that are exceptionally good and that are going to be like high priority picks for a lot of teams, but it's now opening up to where other characters are viable for those remaining 2 or 3 slots. So hopefully we see a little bit more diversity in the teams, and we have some interesting lineups and some more cool combinations coming up. But that's going to be about it for this one, guys. If you want to see more Overwatch content, make sure you hit that subscribe button and check out the channel. Thank you for watching. Remember, always blame the controller because it's never your fault.